Here we have two manuscript maps related to the famous Battle of New Orleans. This very handsome manuscript is tipped into a presentation portfolio. It's immaculately hand-drawn, very carefully hand-colored with watercolors, and it basically tells the whole story of the Battle of New Orleans from the British perspective. It was produced for the First Lord of the British Admiralty, so the person who had the overall command of the Royal Navy at the time of the War of 1812. It is a manuscript map that was originally drawn by a quartermaster in the British Army named John Peddie, who had served in the Army since 1805. He served with the Duke of Wellington in the Peninsular campaigns. Peddie was one of the officers who was sent to help solve a problem. And the problem was that the British Army and the Royal Navy had amassed this huge force to capture the city of New Orleans in the waning days of the War of 1812. New Orleans was probably the most valuable American possession in the Trans-Appalachian West, and the British believed that if they could capture New Orleans, they could force a quick end to the war on terms advantageous to Great Britain. They didn't think it was very well defended. They knew that there were some militia troops and a few regular troops. They didn't know anything about Andrew Jackson, really, except that he was from Tennessee and not necessarily very experienced. But the big problem for the British was just getting to New Orleans, finding a way through our swampy coast to land a large body of men and move them and their artillery to a point where they could attack the American forces defending New Orleans. So that was Peddie's challenge. Peddie was sent to a little fishing village at the mouth of Bayou Bienvenue. And he and another officer, I think a Royal Navy officer, were dressed as fishermen, and they co-opted a couple of the locals to show them along Bayou Bienvenue to the rear of the downriver plantation. So the plantations owned by the Villeries and the Delarondes, and to scout a way to move a large body of men to a place where they could attack New Orleans. So Peddie was one of those men, and he made notes, and he eventually drew this entire map that summarizes the whole British campaign, the positions of the British troops, how they arrived, how they moved to the front, where the enemy's positions were. It even shows the battle on the West Bank that took place on January 8th. That's a part of the Battle of New Orleans that a lot of people don't know about. They know about the decisive victory of American troops on the East Bank, but what they don't know is that the British sent troops over to the West Bank, and they forced the Americans to abandon their defenses and flee back towards the city. All of that is noted on this manuscript map. There's a lot of things going on, notes on terrain, notes on different places, notes where different actions took place and when they happened. So a lot of information going on, all meticulously hand-drawn and presented to the First Lord of the Admiralty. Paired with this map, we have an American manuscript that was prepared by a gentleman named Isaac McKeever, who was a young lieutenant in the United States Navy. And it shows basically the same area, just from a different perspective. It shows the city of New Orleans, and including, and this is the only reference I've ever seen to the Faubourg Marigny as Saint Margaretta. I've never seen any other reference to Marigny as anything other than Marigny suburb, but there it is. McKeever presumably didn't make it up, so maybe that was alternative name of the place that people were discussing at the time. McKeever goes on, he has a long career in the United States Navy. He becomes the commandant of the Brooklyn Navy Yard. He dies of yellow fever just before the Civil War. Very cool to have manuscripts from both sides of the Battle of New Orleans in one place for people to see. And these are original hand-drawn documents from people who were on the scene.